I was worried that my relationship with my husband was becoming strained. One day, my mother gave my daughter a stuffed animal as a birthday present, but my niece wanted it, and my husband gave it to her. I got angry, saying it was bad for our child's education, but my husband refused, saying my sister is a single mom. Then, my daughter's bombshell statement made me suspect something between my sister and my husband. As I investigated, surprising facts came to light. What on earth did I discover? I knew marriage was easy, but divorce was hard. But actually, getting divorced consumed a lot of energy. People who are thinking of getting married from now on should think carefully. You absolutely shouldn't get married on a whim. Did I get married on a whim? Was it really that tough? Well then, let me share my experience. I dated Andrew, whom I met at the company I joined after graduation, and he later became my husband. At that time, I was also 23 years old, and my husband, who was 3 years older, seemed very attractive to me. My husband was very dependable while we were dating, and I have faith that I would be safe with him when we got married. After dating for 2 years, we got married, but when I became pregnant, my husband's behavior slowly began to change. You usually notice significant changes right away, don't you? If he has suddenly become cold or started coming home late, I think I would have noticed and felt uneasy. But my husband seemed to change little by little, so I didn't notice his changes. He seemed less kind, but I thought it was normal for relationships to become more relaxed over time. How was our married life, really? When we watched TV, there was no talking. My husband played games on his phone, and I ended up doing housework. We were very affectionate when we first started dating. Friends said we seemed like an old married couple who had lost their spark, but I thought that was just how marriage was. I even believed we were a good couple because we never fought. But after I got pregnant, my husband said, "Since we're having a child, I'll work harder." And the conversations became even less frequent as overtime work gradually increased. By the time our daughter Luna turned 4, my husband always seemed bored at home and was mostly working overtime due to promotions. Since I also work, we had a rule to pool our salaries for living expenses and each save the remainder. I felt uneasy about giving my husband extra money, fearing it might lead to misunderstandings. I don't want to be disrespectful to people who are working diligently, but all that overtime makes me suspicious. My husband didn't come home early even on our daughter's 5th birthday, so I urged him to come home early over the phone. "Hey, where are you now?"
"It's overtime, so obviously I'm at work, right? Oh, right. Today was the overnight day. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. My bad."
Are you seriously saying you have overtime on a day like today? An overnight stay? It sounds like a joke.
I'm not joking. Seriously, what's so special about today?
I was utterly exasperated by my husband's words. That morning, I did say today is Luna's birthday, so please come home early. Thinking back, even though my husband responded, it seemed like he hadn't heard me, which made me furious. I told you, it's Luna's birthday. I've had enough. You don't need to come back. Fuming, I hung up the phone and returned to the living room where my mother, parents-in-law, and daughter were gathered. My father is away on business by himself, and my sister Susan is away traveling with her daughter Molly. Although there were fewer people than usual, my daughter was overjoyed, hugging a themed stuffed animal given to her by my mother and a drawing set given to her by my in-laws. I couldn't bring myself to complain about my husband here. With an innocent smile, my daughter said, "Thank you, everyone." Just seeing her like that warmed my heart. Even my in-laws expressed dissatisfaction with my husband not coming home for our daughter's birthday, but those feelings alone are sufficient. Even though I yelled at my husband, I defended him by saying, "Andrew is doing his best for the family," in front of my in-laws. But deep down, I still wanted him to be home for our daughter's birthday. It turned out to be a sadder birthday than usual. Having someone who hugs you from their heart is the best. I don't need a father who forgets birthdays. But a few days later, an incident occurred. On a day off, my sister Susan came to visit my house with my niece Molly, bringing souvenirs from her trip. That day, my husband was also at home, and both our families and my sister's family came together. The souvenir we received was a bit strange, but I thought I would have liked something more practical like what they sell near the train station, although I didn't complain. My sister has been divorced for 3 years now and is living with her daughter Molly while working. Even so, our parents are fully supportive in raising her, and she manages to get by as a single mother. Because Molly was a year younger, my daughter acts like the big sister. They are both very close and always stuck together when they were together. I felt reassured seeing the two of them getting along well, but then my niece exclaimed, "I want it!" about the stuffed animal my mother had given to my daughter. My daughter earnestly explained, This is something I got from Grandma. If you want it too, Molly, go ask Grandma. Molly, let's buy one next time for your birthday. I explained this, and my niece nodded understandingly, which reassured me. But then my husband intervened between them.
Luna, you're her big sister, right? Don't be so selfish. Why don't you give it to Molly?
Huh? But this was a gift to me.
So what? You can just get another plush toy like this for the next birthday.
When my husband said that, tears welled up in my daughter's eyes. I immediately hugged my daughter and took the plush toy back from my husband. What are you saying? This plush toy was bought by Grandma at Luna's request.
But Luna is Molly's big sister, right? It's natural to be kind to younger children.
That's a different story altogether. Besides, if you easily accept toys from others like this, Molly might get the wrong idea and take things from people. Even when I said that, my husband didn't seem to understand at all.
Susan is a new mom, you know? It's tough not even having enough to buy children's toys, so it's only natural to give some of Luna's toys.
When my husband said that, I was so surprised that I couldn't say anything. I wish my sister would have at least refrained from staying silent and tried to stop my husband. Do you have the same idea, Susan? I asked fearfully, and my sister smiled and said, Well, it's true we don't have the luxury to buy toys. She started saying that. But there's room in the budget for the trip? Isn't it normal for a mother not to want to teach her children the wrong things? I said that too, but the argument that my daughter is older almost cost me the stuffed animal. But then my daughter said something unexpected.
Mom, please forgive her. Dad likes Susan, so he's trying his best to be liked.
Huh? What do you mean?
They are good friends. At kindergarten, I looked out from the garden and saw them walking hand in hand. Dad often talks on the phone with Susan at night. Right, Molly?
My niece nodded when my daughter asked her that. Apparently, when my niece woke up in the middle of the night, my sister was on the phone with someone. It seems that at that moment, she was calling out my husband's name. On our daughter's birthday, when my sister said she was traveling, she actually stayed at a hotel connected to a station near our home. It was discovered that my husband visited her room. But that's not true, right? We did go on a trip, didn't we? My sister tried to get my niece to nod her head in a stern voice, but she wouldn't do this. So are the two of them having an affair? When I asked that, my husband and sister turned pale and started making excuses respectively.
No, that's wrong. She's just a kid, so she doesn't understand anything. This is really troublesome.
Yeah, we went on a trip together, so we bought souvenirs too. The more they said, the more suspicious I felt. I'm sorry, I can't believe this. I'll investigate this myself. Saying that, I packed the bare essentials, hugged my daughter tightly with the stuffed animal, and went back to my parents' house. Kids are so honest, huh? They can't really lie like that. I find it hard to believe that a child would tell such a lie just because it's what the child is saying. It's almost certain that my husband and sister are having an affair, right? When I returned to my parents' home and told my mother everything, she was really surprised.
Wait, Andrew and Susan?
Their reaction was definitely strange. There's absolutely no way there's nothing going on.
But, Susan, I just can't believe it all of a sudden.
Even I can't believe it. But what do we do now? I said I'd look into it myself, but they'll be on guard. Even if we hire a private investigator now, they might not provide solid evidence, right? As my mother and I pondered our options, my daughter began to say something unexpected again.
Hey, when can I see Molly next?
I can't promise we can meet right away, but...
But Molly is my younger sister, you know. It's weird that we can't meet easily.
No, that's wrong. Molly is Mom's sister's daughter, so you're not really sisters. I thought it might be a bit early, but I unfolded a piece of paper and explained a simple family tree, complete with pictures. But my daughter looked very confused and said,
Huh? But Dad said to Susan on the phone at night, Molly is Dad's child, so it would be bad if it was found out. That means me and Molly are sisters too, right?
Hearing my daughter's story, both my mother and I turned pale. I wondered if it was really possible for my daughter to overhear that part of my husband's phone conversation so conveniently. I also thought maybe she misheard. It felt a bit too perfect. But if it were true, it would be the worst. But then a certain person came to mind. It was my sister's ex-husband, Eric, who she divorced 3 years ago. When my sister and he were married, I had exchanged phone numbers with Eric, so I decided to call him. My concern was that Eric is very shy and timid. My sister is strong-willed, so it seemed she married Eric because he was easy to handle. But in the end, I heard they mutually agreed to divorce due to differences in values. When I called, Eric answered immediately.
What is it?
About Molly. Is there any chance that her father is my husband?
Why are you asking this? I don't want to get involved and have Susan hold a grudge against me, so I'm not saying anything.
Eric said that and hung up the phone. However, this exchange made it more likely that my husband is indeed Molly's father. It frustrated me that Eric knew something but wouldn't tell me. At that moment, I received a WhatsApp message from my sister. There's no evidence even if you investigate now. Stop misunderstanding and come back. A WhatsApp message like that came and my anger flared even more. Apparently, my sister had also reached out to her mother.
Susan, who is usually so confident, is crying and insisting she's innocent. It breaks my heart. Lily, maybe you should reconsider?
They told me that, and there was no way I was going to back down. I got stubborn. Thanks to that, I figured out a lot of things and succeeded in cornering my husband and sister. I can't let such a husband and sister win. A few days later, I invited my husband and sister to my parents' house. I asked my mother to take care of my daughter and niece upstairs, and since my father had returned from his work assignment, he joined the discussion. First, we decided to hear my husband and sister's side of the story.
Lily is making a lot of noise about how we are having an affair, that I'm Molly's father, and so on, taking a joke the kids made at random.
Daddy, you need to talk some sense into Lily. We're not in that kind of relationship. I'm busy raising Molly. I don't have time for an affair.
Lily, I'm just busy with work. Saying I'm cheating because I'm working late is an insult to my hard work.
They claimed they had done nothing wrong and that I was the one who misunderstood. Is that all you have to say? If it's found out later that you're lying, you'll need to take responsibility as adults. When I said that, both my husband and sister laughed mockingly. But when I prompted a certain person to enter the room, their faces turned pale and they froze. It was Eric who walked in. My sister snapped out of it and glared at Eric with a terrifying expression, and Eric started trembling. Eric, please, stay strong. I had to be firm with him, but Eric finally composed himself and took a seat. My father then spoke to Eric gently.
Eric, it's been a while. How have you been? It's been a long time. I've been fine, but I haven't forgotten my resentment towards Susan. Resentment? What do you mean? In the past, Susan was intimidating, and I could have rightfully claimed compensation, but I gave up that right and ran away. But the reason I divorced Susan wasn't due to differences in values. It was because Susan was cheating with Andrew. Eric blurts out, causing my sister to become furious. Eric, why are you telling such lies? Correct this right away or you'll regret it later. Eric trembles in fear, holding his head in both hands, and my father immediately intervenes to stop my sister. Stop it. What Susan is doing is extortion. I won't tolerate using fear to retract statements like this. When my father intervened, Susan was left dumbfounded and couldn't argue anymore. Until now, Eric has likely been treated well by my sister. It seems Susan has done something outrageous to you. As a father, I feel sorry. I'm sorry. No, perhaps my fearful demeanor allowed Susan to say such things. You are humble. It's impressive how, despite your fear, you've come this far. A few days ago, Lily came to my house and asked me to protect her daughter. Seeing others like Lily doing their best, it was embarrassing for a man like me to run away. About a week ago, I asked my mother to tell Eric's mother, and through Eric's mother, I arranged to meet at Eric's home. I thought it would be difficult to get his cooperation given his personality, but after persistent efforts, I managed it. Then I took out an envelope from my bag and spread its contents on the table. It was the DNA test results proving that Eric and my niece were not related. I've been worried since Molly was born that she doesn't resemble me at all. It's not difficult to suspect that she might be someone else's son, especially with Susan coming home late every night. When I secretly did the test, it turned out just as I expected. Susan, who is Molly's father? My sister, who was intimidated by my father's stern gaze, couldn't answer his question. Still scared, her face buried. I suspect it might be Andrew's child, but I still don't know who the father is. When Eric looked at my husband, he too couldn't meet his gaze, and his face was buried like my sister's. So I put something on the table. I'm also suspicious about your relationship with Molly. Can you cooperate with the test to clear up this doubt? But my husband refused, shaking his head with a pale face. With that attitude, it was as if he himself were saying he was the father. If you have nothing to hide, you should be able to undergo the test, my father shouted, and it seemed like my husband realized he couldn't escape, so he immediately provided a sample. That day we temporarily dispersed. You know the result, don't you? We won't know until we actually see the results, right? It could be another man. 2 weeks later, we gathered at my parents' house minus Eric. My husband and sister looked pale, waiting for their sins to be exposed. Well, I already knew the result, so I felt relieved. The results of the DNA test that I put out on the table proved that my husband and niece were parent and child. This must be some mistake. Lily, did you tamper with something? My husband was making such a fuss, but I coldly denied it. There's no way I could have done that. My father also intervened at my husband's attitude. Didn't I collect the sample right in front of you? How can you accuse Lily of tampering with it? He got angry, and my husband quieted down. Furthermore, I showed my husband a certain document. It was bank account records. Actually, when we first got married, we downloaded a banking app to view each other's savings accounts. But we used different banks, so it got buried in other apps and forgotten. I thought I'd take a look to see my husband's money movements. Then I was surprised to find out that my husband had been sending a large sum of money, $1,000 each month, to my sister. Why did my bank account information leak to you? Did you just sneak into my phone without permission? Look closely, you can see the printouts for the last 3 days, right? Did you forget that when we got married, we installed a banking app that we both use? Oh, I remember that there was a banking app installed that I didn't use and I deleted it. Is this $1,000 possibly child support? It often arrives late like this money, doesn't it? So that's why you only gave around $30 for birthday presents to me and Luna? Even when I asked, my husband just stayed silent. I thought it was pointless to talk about it any further, so I decided to end the conversation. Anyway, I'm going to divorce Andrew. And after that, I'm going to claim compensation from Andrew and my sister. Huh? You're saying you'll demand compensation from me, a single mom? After getting involved with someone else's husband? What are you saying? It's disgusting that you and my husband would get together. If you're going to do that kind of thing, be prepared to be sued for compensation. Or maybe you should ask Andrew to pay you. It seems like he has the leeway to pay you $1,000 a month. When I said that, my husband raised his voice and my sister began to get angry. Why do I have to pay for her too? Huh? It's partly your fault too, so take responsibility. Why is it my responsibility? If you earned more, it would be a different story. You even made me pay on our dates. You insisted on paying, didn't you? As my husband and sister started a heated argument, my father kicked them out of the house. Well, we'll settle this through lawyers then. Just before closing the front door, I said to my husband and sister with a smile, well, it's only natural since he cheated. When they were having fun, it was good, but the affection crumbled at the slightest touch. After that, my husband and I divorced, and I claimed child support. Naturally, I demanded compensation from both my husband and my sister. It seems my husband took on debt to pay the compensation because I was said to receive the majority of the property division. He called me and said firmly, I'm not going to pay Susan's share of the alimony, he asserted. My husband has repayments and child support payments to make to me. At work, it seems he messed up his job due to an affair with my sister and got transferred to a different department, significantly reducing his income.
Even though it's just him, life must be tough. As for my sister, she pleaded with me to accept installment payments, knowing she couldn't pay all at once. Knowing my sister had no money, I agreed it was better to accept installments than risk her evading payment altogether by insisting on a lump sum. My sister, who had been working part-time until now, has been leaving her niece with my parents and working tirelessly. Until marriage, she worked as a part-timer, then as a full-time housewife and single mother, and after that, she only worked part-time. It seems that obtaining regular employment as a full-time employee was difficult for her after she passed her mid-30s. I heard that she's working multiple part-time jobs, and it's physically demanding these days. It seems tough for her now that she's paying child support to our parents for taking care of her niece. Our parents have no intention of letting her live at home, so she's spending her time alone and lonely. I'm glad my niece didn't stay with her or my husband. I have concerns about both of them as parents. I don't care what happens to my husband and sister, but I need to protect my kids. So now I'm living at home, a family of 5 daughter-niece parents. My niece also got her favorite stuffed animal for her birthday, and my daughter and niece play dolls together. My niece is the child of my husband and sister, but the child is innocent. She's an honest and sweet girl, and I want to take care of my niece as much as I do my daughter. By the way, I'm still working hard at raising my kids. It's a bit tough, but with my parents supporting me, I feel like I can manage even though it's hard now, thinking that eventually they'll grow up and leave my care. If my daughter and niece grow up healthy and lively, that's all I need. Watching my children grow is the most exciting part. Divorce was tough, but it was good to separate properly. Thank you for listening this far. I feel relieved to see the kids happy. Thus, Lily ends her relationship with her husband and sister because they prioritized her sister's child over her own daughter. It's sad to be betrayed by those you consider family. Many men have a relationship with other women despite having a wife and daughter. It's important to be careful not to be deceived by such men.